Welcome to the Bodega Cat Podcast with Christina Ng. Over the next hour, you'll hear from guest experts from a variety of different backgrounds, with specialties pertaining to pets and humans alike. Now, here is Christina.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Podcast, and my name is Christina. I'll be your host. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Samuel Chong, and I'll read a little bit of his bio, and I will have him elaborate as we talk. Samuel Chong is a motivational keynote speaker on wellness, resilience, and mindset, leadership and positive change, health and well-being, spirituality and near-death experiences, extraterrestrials, ETs, ancient mysteries, and esoteric knowledge. A lawyer in California and a certified court interpreter and Chinese translator, Samuel Chong visited Michael DeMarque, the author of Thiaoouba Prophecy, in 2016 and 2018, and he was instrumental in arranging for the Chinese publication of DeMarque's book, which has been a bestseller in both China and Taiwan, a rare phenomenon. He also translated the book 344% Lies, The Revelation of H.M. versus Stahl, an autobiography of the High Master of the Chair of a Secret Society that was started in Germany. Today, he dedicates his efforts in promoting the messages in these books in order to give people hope and to help promote a better world. Graduated from UC Berkeley with a BA, Bachelor of Arts in Economics, Universidad Carlos III de Madrid with a MA, Master of Arts in Financial Analysis, and Northwestern California University School of Law with a JD, Juris Doctorate. Is that right,
Yes.
Samuel? Okay. He currently resides in Los Angeles, California. Some of Samuel Chong's credentials include attorney, lawyer licensed by the State Bar of California, certified Mandarin court interpreter in California, New York, registered Mandarin Federal Court interpreter, Chinese translator, American Translators Association, licensed massage therapist in California, former instructor at University of California, Los Angeles Extension Program. Oh, that's my alumni. JD, Juris Doctor of Law, Northwestern California University School of Law, MA, Financial Analysis, Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, Spain, GC, is that graduate certificate?
General course.
General course.
Yes.
Okay. Economic History, London School of Economics and Political Science, LSE, BA, Bachelor of Arts in Economics, University of California, Berkeley. Samuel Chong, the futurist, while working as a Mandarin interpreter for business leaders such as Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, Michael Dell, Samuel accumulated knowledge of a variety of different industries. With his creativity and strategic foresight, he possesses the ability to envision future possibilities that others might not see. In addition, as a lifelong learner of different disciplines, his interdisciplinary trainings combined with his esoteric knowledge on mind, body, and spirit, MBS, enables him to have a broad understanding of different fields, as well as connections and implications across different domains. Well, thank you so much, Samuel, for joining us today. And I'm very impressed by your CV. I know we met about a year ago. You were very kind to come and visit our center and presented me with Michel DeMarque's book, which I read. It's been a couple months, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to start with your journey because you have such a wide variety of interests, and topics that you kind of go down different rabbit holes, and I'm kind of like that. But I wanted to kind of start with your journey in terms of how do you become a lawyer to an esoteric researcher, I guess you can say, or translator with, ETs and spirituality and all that stuff. So if you could start with that.
I know a lot of people in the spiritual communities realize what's going on in the world, but there are still people who rely on the mainstream media that are stubborn enough not to be really open to the idea of spirituality and also the existence of extraterrestrials. So I was thinking if I have this additional credential, being a lawyer or attorney in California, that would kind of encourage people to take me a little bit more seriously. So that's actually one of the reasons I decided to become a licensed attorney in California. There's also another reason, which happened about 20 or 25 years ago, in which my father was involved in a lawsuit. It would have been able to be resolved for about $5,000, but the lawyer at that time encouraged him to sue the other side, and then it turned out that they settled, but it cost him $300,000 in legal expenses and fees. I want to make a change in the legal industry. I want to really help the people, the parties, and also not to be greedy like the other lawyers are. So this is my real reasons.
Yeah, attorneys make a lot of money, isn't it?
They do. Actually, and I want to make a change.
Yeah, good for you. So how do you transition to being an attorney to the spirituality aspect?
Actually, I was very into the spirituality domain. Like when I was young, I was curious about what happens after we die, what's really going on inside of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, who built it and for what purposes. And then I became very interested in reading as many books as possible, learning from people who claim to have ET encounters, extraterrestrial encounters. I was hoping to get more information from them, from the ETs, so that we can progress at a much faster pace. So I was always curious about the ETs and also the esoteric knowledge. And then I became a paralegal, working at a law firm. That got me interested in the legal field. I also have been a certified court interpreter for the last 20 years or so. That actually laid a very good foundation for me to become a licensed attorney. And it took me a few years of law school to learn what the attorneys normally learn. And also I passed a California bar exam. So that got me into where I'm right now.
So it sounds like you were interested in the spirituality part, not because of any significant event that happened. Because usually from my experience is that I was a hospice nurse for over 25 years. So I dealt with death and dying a lot. And usually people would activate their curiosity for the spiritual and the other world because of a grandfather that died or a parent that died, and that kind of sparked their curiosity, right? Because it sort of showed their mortality, if you will. So it sounds like for you, it's just a curious thing. It wasn't like a particular incident that shook your world and you had to, find out about the afterlife and all that stuff.
That's right. I was always curious about this. This is probably due to what I experienced in my past lives, which I'm very curious to know. I haven't done any past life regressions yet, but I want to know how many past lives I had and what I was in the past lives. That's my curiosity as well.
Oh, now the attorney world is a very left brain kind of world, very categorized, and they like to put things in little boxes and things like that. Now, the spiritual world is very different. It's a very right brain sort of intuitive. I mean, do you find that at all, or is it hard to transition from one world to another, or are you integrating both?
For me, it's very easy to be integrated in both. This is the reason why I want to do what I'm doing right now, is to bridge science and spirituality, to enter into different communities and try to wake as many people up as possible. because people have different belief systems. My goal is to plant the seeds so that they can really be awakened when they're ready. But there are some attorneys that are opened up already. For example, if you know the former counsel for the Disclosure Project, Daniel Xian, he has been working really hard to make the government disclose what they had encountered in the past in terms of non-human intelligence or people from other planets. So there are people who have had near-death experiences among the attorneys that are doing their best to help people out, not really for monetary reasons, but also to really help the people, their clients, and also the other sides as well. So I think there are people who are there, it's just that they don't talk about it openly or publicly.
Why is that?
Because in the communities of lawyers, if you speak about past life experiences or esoteric knowledge, then a lot of people won't be able to see you as their peers anymore. But I am not afraid of that. I'm going to try my best to convey the such knowledge and ideas to them through different means. And you're going to see how I do that in the future.
So how involved are you with, there's a lot of talk in the geopolitical world about disclosures and drones and, ETs and all that stuff. How involved are you either behind the scenes or in front of the scenes in terms of playing a role in that disclosure? I know you're kind of doing your part, but maybe in a wider community or a wider group of people, if you will. You know what I mean?
For the last 3 or 4 years in the US, I've been talking about the book Thiaoouba Prophecy to the people in the spiritual communities, people who already believe the existence of ETs. In the future, I'm going to be branching out to the people who might not necessarily believe in the afterlife or in the existence of ETs. So I'll be working my way around the system and try to navigate it and see what happens. That's going to be a challenge for me, but I'm up to it.
Yeah, interesting. Because the attorney world and the spiritual world, ET world, is so different, in terms of the spectrum of things. It's kind of interesting to see them come together and be part of the overall collective discourse. I think that's kind of where we need to go, right? So have you ever met an ET?
No, I have not. Actually, meeting an ET to me is just like receiving assistance when I'm trying to solve a mathematical problem. And I want to do it on my own. I want to solve the puzzle or the problem on my own without any assistance from the ETs. So I prefer to do it my own way unless it is absolutely necessary for them to intervene.
How do you know they exist?
Well, if you look at it, throughout history, there are records of flying objects, or even in the Bible, if you read about it, there's the Star of Bethlehem when Jesus was born. And if you really think a little bit more carefully and deeply, then it could be a UFO or UAP in the sky. And also, who really opened the sea for Moses in the past? I don't think that's the work of the creator, but people from other planets trying to help him and the Hebrews. And I think if you read the ancient scriptures or texts, you're going to find traces of evidence of ETs intervening and helping us. Even the destruction of the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, if you read the Old Testaments of the Bible, you're going to see that the angels that they were talking about were actually the ETs who were trying to help us.
So in the spiritual community, we talked about, there's talk about angels and ascended masters and higher beings and things like that. Would you consider them to be ETs?
Well, people need to distinguish the ETs that are physically in existence, as well as the higher selves that we all have, we can all connect to. And our higher selves are actually very powerful, like I would say, composed of electrons who can actually just perform a lot of miracles for us. So if people see angels or in dreams or miracles happening, that could be what happened to them with the assistance of their higher selves. So there are two different concepts. One is the physical ETs that come to existence to us, to meet us and to intervene. The other is our higher selves that we are all connected to, that can help us to overcome life challenges.
Interesting. I think the other world or the spiritual world is not something that we think it might be in terms of the Christian concept. I think there's still a lot for us to learn. There's many different dimensions and many different beings that we haven't even tapped into, I think. So it's a very interesting area of study. So let's talk a little bit about the Thiaoouba book. What was it that drawn you to that book? And because you had an adventure in itself, meeting the author and translating the book and things like that. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was young, I always fascinated by the stories of ET encounters. There was a story published in a Chinese magazine called the UFO magazine that said that the American physicist had an encounter with the ETs, and he was told that even though Einstein laid the three fundamental theories of modern physics, he made a small mistake. And that's the reason that people now believe that we cannot go faster than the speed of light. I was thinking if the ETs tell us this, then they must have a lot more interesting knowledge that we can learn from, so that we can really cut the corners and and really just to learn as much as possible and to really advance faster. So I was always interested in reading books written by ET contactees. After I came to the US, after my English was improved, over the years, I began to read as many books as possible. But most of the books I read contained very vague information that couldn't be verified. But in 2014, I read this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. It was titled Abduction to the Ninth Planet before. So I checked the book out and I couldn't put the book down because it contains so much specific and verifiable information that I was able to validate and do additional research. In the postscript of the book, it says there are far more incredible things that the author, Michel de Marquet, wasn't allowed to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. That got me extremely curious because I had a big ego before, and I thought others might not be able to understand it. I definitely would be able to understand it because I knew so much at that time. I had a very big ego. So I decided to track him down and to ask him in person. So I searched online and found he was still alive. I was so happy that he was still alive. And
What year was this?
That year was 2014.
Mm.
But actually, I went to visit him in 2016. It took me 2 years to be prepared for that because it cost money to fly to Vietnam, where he was living at that time. And I didn't have his exact address. There are a few tourists who met him and posted pictures of him online, but they refused to tell me where exactly Michel de Marquet was living. So I printed out a picture of the bungalow that Michel de Marquet was living, and I flew to Phu Quoc Island in southern Vietnam, and I showed that picture that I printed out to the local taxi driver, asking him to take me there to the bungalow. And at the second try, he took me to the right location, and I met the author of the book. And I asked him a lot of questions, and he was very annoyed at me because he believed that I didn't read the book carefully enough. And if I read it carefully and many times, I wouldn't have asked those, according to him, stupid questions. So he didn't really respond to me. And but then 2 days before I was about to depart, he found me to be useful because I speak Chinese, and he signed a contract with a Chinese publisher who paid him $2,000 and promised to have the book published in China. But he never heard from them again. He wanted me to follow up. It turned out that the publisher decided not to have the book published because of the fear of censorship in China. So Michel de Marquet asked me to find a different publisher, whether it's in China or Taiwan or Hong Kong or even Singapore. So that's what I did. I tried my best and got a book published in China and Taiwan, 2 different versions. And he invited me to visit him for the second time. That's what I did in 2018, just a few months before he passed away.
Oh, that's quite a story. So how long did it take you to, once you arrived in Vietnam, how long did it take you to track him down before you meet him?
Just like half an hour or so, because the taxi driver was really good.
Okay.
He looked at the picture of the bungalow and said, "I'm going to try my best." And then
Okay.
I don't know, because Phu Quoc Island is a very small island. I guess the taxi driver knew everything.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah. So he really went out of his way to, Michel de Marquet really went out of his way to be, to hide, right? To hide from the public.
Actually, he for 2 reasons. One reason was that he was trying to hide from the public. He was criticized, and also he felt disappointed that very few people believed him. And the second reason was that because he had obsessive compulsive disorder, he had a divorce, and he wanted to change his environment and by going to a foreign country. And he found Phu Quoc Island to be a little bit similar to the planet Thiaoouba. So that's why he decided to live there for the rest of his life.
Is that where Easter Island is? Because I know the book Thiaoouba talked about that.
No, it's actually
It's different.
It's different. It's in Vietnam. It's in south of Vietnam. Very beautiful island there, and people can visit there without having a visa.
Forgive my ignorance, because I remember there was a chapter on Easter Island in the book. So you talked about one of the things that drew you to this book, the Thiaoouba Prophecy, was that there were things in there that you can verify. Can you give a couple of examples about that?
Yes, for example, it talked about the U.S. government sending out hundreds of millions of needles into space, and then they collected the needles, believing
like syringe needles, or what kind?
Not syringe needles, but copper needles, like very thin needles, not syringe needles.
Oh.
So it turned out that I was able to find the project that the U.S. government launched back in the 1960s. It's called Project Westward. They were trying to improve the telecommunication reception signals at that time by sending out the copper needles into space, so that the signals would bounce back from the needles. If you look up Wikipedia, you're going to find a page on Project Westward. They tried to launch 3 times, and 2 of the launches failed, and the ETs from Thiaoouba claimed that they were responsible for collecting the needles in space. There are also other details, such as when Michelle entered into their spaceship.
That's the author,
Yeah.
Michelle Demarque. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was disinfected using blue light and yellow light. That was in 1987. And years later, Harvard Medical School had a paper on the antibacterial effect of certain wavelengths of blue light. And just recently, like 6 or 7 years ago, there was another paper by scientists claiming that certain wavelengths of yellow light also have antibacterial effect. So this book is way ahead of the results or research results of our scientific community. It also has very interesting details talking about incorporating plate tectonics, talking about where Antarctica was about 1.35 million years ago, and talking about Australia was connected to Antarctica, Antarctica having a very mild climate before. If you were to write like a book, you wouldn't really care such details. If you were to write a science fiction or something like that, you wouldn't really care about such details of the shifting of continents on Earth. What we would say, or geologists would say, the plate tectonics. But this book has so many details like those. Also talks about the stories in the Bible. And, there's a church here in Alhambra called the Mandarin Baptist Church in Alhambra of Los Angeles. I have been a church member for the last 20 years or so. Even though I went to the church, I believed none of the preachings of the pastors, because I went to the church just for expanding my social networks and to get to know people for my business. And because I believe that the stories in the Bible were just too miraculous to be true. I also believe that the Christians are hypocrites, because if you look at what happened in the past, the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, I believe that the Christians say one thing, but do other things, the opposite of what they preach. So I believe none of the preachings of the church. But after reading the book, I really believe that Christ was was a real person that actually came here to preach about spirituality and love. And I believe that he was here to really help people to grow spiritually. But for some reason, the church distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures. And this book connects all the dots, explaining what happened in the past, what happened to Moses, what happened to Jesus, and what happened to Christ. It also talks about the tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, that not many people know about. So this is why some people say that Jesus went to India, and this is why there's a tomb of Jesus in Japan, because Jesus and Christ are actually two different entities, two different beings. And this book explains why that's the case, on why there's no record of Jesus performing miracles before the age of 30, before he began preaching, and why suddenly Christ was able to perform all the miracles and began preaching. So this book connects all the dots. Also explains like the Bermuda Triangle and the pyramid, and why pyramid is an energy center, and also explains the human energy fields, the auras, and why certain machines or energy treatments are effective in making people feel more energetic, and why they have healing effects. So I think this book is a book of everything, explains everything about the paranormal phenomena, and I think everyone has to read the book to know more.
Now, that's interesting about the Bermuda Triangle because we never really hear about it as a healing vortex. We hear a lot of negative stories about it, people missing and all that kind of stuff. So that's an interesting perspective about the Bermuda Triangle.
It is. It is actually a portal or entry point into a parallel universe.
Interesting. Wow, those are pretty interesting stories. This is going to be one of the books that we will be reading in our book club. We have a book club every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's a little plug, selfless plug. Monday, we're reading spiritual books. So yeah, this is a fascinating book to read. And I remember in your other podcasts, you suggest that we read the book 3 times, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very dense book with a lot of information. Each time when I read it, something new comes out. Something new that I missed from the previous reading comes out. So this book has to be read many times in order to get the most out of it.
How many times have you read it?
9 times or so.
Wow. So did Michel de Marquet write any other books, or is just this one?
He wrote 2 other books, 2 other fictions. One is titled Nature's Revenge, and the other is titled She and I. He was also writing a 4th book before he passed away, but he didn't finish it.
So did you think that he would probably want to write more about the Thiaoouba Prophecy if he could? Because he sounds like he had a lot of information that's just not written down.
No, he was writing his autobiography before he passed away. I think Thiaoouba Prophecy is probably the only book that talks about his encounters with the ETs. I think reading this book will be sufficient, and there's probably no need to read his other books unless the audience is very interested in.
Now, how many languages did this book was translated to?
More than 17 languages by now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that it was a bestseller in the Asian community?
Actually, I was a little bit surprised because I didn't expect that to be so welcomed by the people in China or Taiwan. It's actually mainly due to the YouTubers talking about the book. I mean, we didn't pay anyone. They just found this book to be very interesting, and they began to talk about it, and people became interested and purchased the book. Yeah.
Now, these would be YouTubers in China?
YouTubers in Japan, in Taiwan, in China, and in Malaysia, Singapore, and also other parts of the world.
Okay. Were you surprised that it was so freely talked about in China with all the communism, CCP, censorship, and all that?
Well, when they talk about it, they don't talk about what the book says about communists or communism or China. So they leave that part out so that they don't get censored. So they get around the system.
I have to say, with all the let's just say the bad people, putting a lot of restrictions and stuff on us, we really have to turn up our creative brains, right, to kind of go around the system or go under it or go over it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not only China, in the US, we also have some kind of censorship as well. I hope things are going to get better in the next few years. But in the past, I mean, a lot of things couldn't be talked about. Did you feel that in your own personal work? Yes, I did. Yeah, COVID is one thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they did say we're entering the golden age and the great awakening. So we will see what unfolds. It certainly is very interesting and exciting. Yeah. So you have other works that you were talking about or that you were working on or that you have worked on. do you want to talk a little bit about that and then introduce our audience to that?
Yes, there's another book that I translated from German into English. The title is 334 per thousand lies. It is actually an autobiography of high degree master of the chair of a secret society from Germany. I read that book because I was interested in finding out how to see auras, how to see the human energy fields. I think that's a very important skill to have. I found that book out because I was reading like an article in a forum that suggests people to check this book out because it talks about the necessary skills for people to have in order to be able to see the colors of auras. It turned out that the book is more than that. It also talks about how members of the secret societies develop their psychic abilities using different techniques or kind of I would say like I would say they use different techniques, but also use very devious ways of doing that. It's a very dark book, and they use a lot of rituals to achieve their goals. But at the end of the book, it says that the author, which is an anonymous author, realized everything is about love because he had a near-death experience. And he met many spiritual masters when he had that near-death experience of being buried underground for 41 days. 41 days. When he came out alive, he decided to change things around. Before that, the secret society was influencing and controlling and manipulating the politicians and business leaders in the world behind the scenes. And after he came out, realizing that everything is about love and compassion, he decided to change things around, having a symbiosis relationship with the rest of the world. If people are interested, they can check the book out and skip the parts that are disturbing and disgusting. And it's a revealing. It's a book of revelation to a lot of people who believe in the secret societies such as the Illuminati, and I think this book will open their eyes.
Interesting. Now, where can you get the book if my audience, anyone's interested?
You can get it on Amazon. Just type in 334 and then the word lies, LIES, and they can find the book.
Is this so when you read it, was it in English or was it in German? Do you speak German or read German?
I don't speak German, so I used the tool to translate it into English. And then I thought this book is so valuable and more people should be able to access it and read it. So I contacted the copyright holder, and he said it's a very good idea to have it in English. So he agreed to have my translated version to be published on Amazon.
Oh, interesting. So on the scale of 1 to 10, just to prepare my audience, 10 being very dark, how dark is the book?
There are 3 parts in the book that are really dark on the scale of 10.
Okay.
But the rest of the book is fine on the scale of 1 or maybe 0.
So for my audience, proceed with caution.
Yes,
yeah.
Please.
Yeah, interesting. Any other books that you have? How do you choose the books that you want to translate? Do you just kind of? Yeah, I'll let you do that. How do you choose the books that you want to translate?
Yeah, I choose books that bridge science and spirituality, that contains facts that can be verified. Specific fact that can be verified. For example, there are some books, and people suggest me to read the books such as other spiritual books that are vague, and I I don't seem to have any resonance to those kind of books, because the general message is good, but I won't be able to validate and prove any of the things written in the book. Thiaoouba Prophecy is very specific. It's very unique. And if you read the book, you're going to find out that there are numbers, there are events, there are locations, there are names that you can really do additional research and validate what they're saying. For example, during World War II, Germany was also developing the atomic bomb, and the ETs kind of helped the US scientists to develop the atomic bomb much earlier than the Germans. And if you research history, you can actually find out it is true that there was a German scientist or physicist called Dr. Heisenberg who was developing the atomic bomb, and he was far more advanced than the American scientists. But for some reason, he made a very stupid mistake, and his report was read by Hitler, who decided not to have the bomb made because he believed that Germany didn't have the natural resources to make the bomb. So that's probably the reason why Americans were able to drop the 2 bombs in Japan much earlier than the Germans did or developed a bomb. So there are things like this. People can read into that and do additional research on their own. Also, the book talks about reincarnation a lot. And I don't need to elaborate on that.
Did you say that the ET in Thiaoouba helped the Americans make the atomic bomb?
They prevented Germany from being the first country to develop the atomic bomb. In a sense, they helped the US scientists indirectly by preventing the Germans having the bomb much earlier than the US government.
Why would they help the US, even though it isn't directly make the atomic bomb, if the atomic bomb is destructive, and
Yes.
it seems so counterintuitive to what their lifestyle and their philosophy is.
There are two reasons. The first reason is that through the human development history, like in any development or evolvement of civilization, atom will be discovered or rediscovered. So no matter what, they're going to be able to make the atomic bomb. So this will happen no matter what. And the second reason is that during World War II, the ETs believed the U.S. government was more friendly in protecting individual liberty than the Germans or the Japanese. So they sided with the U.S. government because the U.S. government was the better side for humanity at that time, because it believed in individual freedom and liberty in the past. Nowadays, in the last a few years or decade or so, the things are not what they were used to. But in the past, the U.S. government was better than the Germans.
Interesting. That sounds so counterintuitive because of, in the book they talk about, if I remember, reading back, they talk about the higher dimensions, love and non-harming, don't harm people, don't kill people, things like that. And it's just kind of
it says that a lot of things are not black and white. There are a lot of gray areas. They sometimes intervene to help us, and sometimes they have to balance everything and not to kind of in a way that cause unbalance. So this is they also have a lot of difficult decisions to make as well.
Do you think that they're still intervening to a certain extent to our world right now?
Yes, they are.
Wow, interesting.
Indirectly, because they only intervene when they have to. I would say, yeah, I would encourage the audience to read the book and to learn more about their interventions in the past.
Well, are there any, I know you have a vast knowledge and experience. Do you have anything that you want to share with the audience? I'll give the floor to you and any message you want to put out there.
The book warns about the dangers on Earth. Number one being money. Number two, politicians. Number three, journalists and drugs. And number four, religions. And we know that money is the root of all evil. And the pharmaceutical industry, the energy industry, even the education industry, they're all influenced by money and the big corporations. And the politicians too. I mean, and the book talks about how we can overcome the challenges in our lifetime by communicating with our higher self directly without going through an intermediary agency such as a religion or the government. We can just meditate or concentrate or pray and to really follow our intuition or gut feelings when we have difficult decisions to make. Because we are connected to the creator directly. When the creator created everything, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of our astral bodies. So we are part of the creator and the creator is part of us. So this is why we should be able to communicate with God directly and not to follow the mainstream media or religion. We should also pay attention to our human energy fields. Just in December 2024, I visited India and gave a lot of talks and presentations to auras and human energy fields. And some people can see auras. For example, Barbara Brennan, when she saw the grayish color in the liver area of her friend, a few months later, her friend was diagnosed of liver cancer. So auras or the human energy fields can predict what physical illness a person is going to have in the future. So if you're able to improve on the auras before the physical symptoms manifest, you're able to prevent a lot of diseases from happening. So there are ways to improve a person's auras. One way is to eat organic, non-processed natural foods or raw foods, because the fruits and vegetables, they have the energy fields of their own. When you eat them, you're kind of digesting or taking their energy fields into your own body. But processed foods like the chips or some of the other junk foods that we eat, they don't have the energy fields of the fruits and vegetables, and they contain artificial ingredients that would cause a lot of burden on the liver, our liver. So that would kind of, in a way, gradually reduce our immune system. And the other way to improve the auras is to meditate. One person I met in India, he said that the American doctor proclaimed that he was incurable because he had a terminal illness. He didn't give up. He meditated every morning for 2 hours. And then his so-called terminal illness disappeared. And the doctor was so surprised that he fully recovered from it. And the third way to improve auras is to pay attention to colors. And also there are ways to do that. vibrant colors energize the human energy fields. But you can also use machines to do that as well. Like, for example, I know, Christina, you have this device that can energize people's energy fields. And after I used it, after I experienced it, I felt very energetic. And I think that's a very good way to energize the human energy fields as well. So I think people should have the knowledge. And once you have the knowledge, you're able to determine and make the right choices. It is so true that knowledge is power. When you have the knowledge, you have the power to make better decisions in your life.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of what you said made sense to me. And I think applied knowledge is power, because you could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't take action, it's not going to do anything for you. So, yeah. So very good. So we have a few minutes left. Any last words of wisdom and message? I know you kind of talked a little bit about that from the Thiaoouba Prophecy perspective, but maybe from your own personal perspective. And where can people find you and your work?
Yeah, I think knowledge is so important because it can really help you to navigate your life very efficiently and effectively. For example, I had the knowledge of knowing that there's a law school in California that only charges $3,000 per year for tuition fees. And then I spent 4 years in that online law school, and I passed the bar exam and only paid $20,000 or so in the entire 4 or 5 years to get a law license. So that's the knowledge that I have. So reading this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, will also give you a lot of knowledge that can help you to navigate your life, your challenges. Actually, I studied finance and investments and learned all the tricks of the investment masters. But reading this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, has been the best investment I ever made in my entire life. I strongly encourage you to get the book and read about it and to absorb the knowledge contained in the book so that your life will go much smoother in the future.
Thank you so much. And where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook and YouTube by searching my name, Samuel Chong, Chong, and people can find the book on Amazon. It's titled Thiaoouba Prophecy, Thiaoouba Prophecy.
And do you have a website?
My website is chinasona.org, and people can find my contact information online. So
if they just type in your name, you can find all your information. And I'll put that in the description box below as well, so people can find it easier, make it easier to find you. So thank you so much, Samuel. Any last words of wisdom for my audience?
When you have challenges in life, look inside for answers, for the kingdom of God is within you, says in the Bible.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. And we will have another podcast next month. In the meantime, please have a very nice day and a nice month. All right. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bodega Cat Podcast. Your host, Christina Ng, will join you here again next month. Until then, have a beautiful month.